And just before the G20 Summit began, President Xi Jinping of China, President Joe Biden of the US met and discussed several issues ranging from Taiwan and climate change. And to help us have this conversation, we're joined by Global Affairs Analyst Nweke. He joins me live from Belgium. Good to have you join us.
Thank you. Thank you, Precious, for having me.
So President Xi and President Biden met in Indonesia. That's for the first time. They've had several calls between each other. President Biden seemed to have took a more softer tone and measured approach. We also saw President Xi shake hands with President Biden, even though President Biden had called. Talk to us about what you make of the optics of this and what this says about the relationship between both presidents.
Well, I think both leaders have taken time out to weigh all the options before them in terms of what they stand to lose when there is an escalation. I mean, in terms of the Cold War, in terms of the battle, the cold relationship between both countries. And I think they have come to realize that ultimately they will have their differences. And if for the interest of both their countries, both their citizens and their economy, and also by extension, the world at large, it is best that they contain their differences, they continue to work on it, and then actually emphasize more in the areas that they are able to find common grounds. Now, one interesting thing about the relationship at this point is the fact that both leaders appear to be very predictable personalities. They are not rash in approach, they are not erratic. And so that has offered the opportunity for them to actually acknowledge where their differences are, but then continue to collaborate in areas that they can collaborate. I believe that in the course of the interview, we could dive a bit more into some of those areas of commonalities, but also areas of difference.
You remember the first time officials of both countries met? I think that was in the US. It did not go well. President Putin has always touted his relationship with President Xi as the model for bilateral relations. How do you think that he viewed that meeting between President Xi and President Biden?
Sorry, I didn't quite get your question, Precious.
How do you think President Putin viewed or will be viewing that meeting between President Xi and President Biden, bearing in mind that he has always touted his relationship with President Xi as the model for bilateral relations?
Very, very, very important point. Of course, Putin is very difficult to psychologize, but in this specific instance that you have raised in terms of whether he feels unsettled or otherwise about the relationship between these two leaders, Biden and Xi, definitely he would want a situation where, he stops conflict between them because the last thing he wants to see is that both of them appearing to, agree on anything at all because, it plays in his favor. Yes, I believe he will be unsettled particularly in the understanding that both of them reached and actually declared so that the use of nuclear weapons anywhere in the world, but particularly in this ongoing conflict between Russia and Putin, is as good as ruled out. So which means that none of them is ever going to support that. That is not a win for Russia, but at the same time, there are reasons to believe that China does have some ambitions in terms of, reassessing, reevaluating, and repositioning the world order, taking the lead in time to come. And that ambition is very strong, and they count on countries like Russia, China, and the rest of them to enable them accomplish that goal. But you see, one good thing about Z is that he appears to be somebody who realizes that long-term objective is much more important than short-term little wins. So that ambition, he is not in any hurry to achieve it, and so he wouldn't want to rock the boat. And yes, but that leaves Russia a little bit concerned about his future with China.
All right. I wish we could talk about Taiwan, which was the most thorny topic between both leaders, but I'm told my time is up. Thank you so much for talking to us, Global Affairs Analyst Collins Nweke.
Thank you for having me, Precious.